You made, what, 2 million in 18 minutes?
Yeah, 2.4 at the time when ETH was 4,000. Before I enter any industry, I do a ton of research. When you say, I'm successful in every industry, it's because I'm taking a pretty calculated bet in my head that I'm going to be successful based off what I'm researching.
How did you break through from being socially awkward to hosting these masterful events, having a top podcast? That's a fucking challenge there. How did you do it?
So forcing myself to go to events and start talking and forcing myself to start a podcast and start speaking, going on other shows as a guest really helped me come out. It's really just repetition. You got to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. When you're broke and you don't have any connections, you're going to want to learn because you don't have high income skills yet. So you're going to want to have a mentor. That's going to expedite your process by years. Problem is people buy a course or whatever, a mastermind, they want results the next week. But when it comes to relationships, you have to foster those. Those are, some of them last your whole lifetime. You can't just make money off the first week you meet someone.
LFG fam, we just shot a fucking banger right now. I can't wait till you hear this shit. It's like next level. No one's talking about this. Shout out to our sponsors, because without them, this shit wouldn't be possible. Shout out to Ringba. Shout out to Adam Young, the paper call revolution. There's big, big money in paper call, whether you're someone who's a novice looking to get into it, whether you're someone who's already doing it, putting up big numbers. Let's fucking do this, guys. Get the fucking book on Amazon. We're going to drop a link here. Take your shit to the next level. Let's fucking go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the LFG Let's Fucking Go show. We're talking to business people around the world who are just fucking killing it in business and life and in general. Today, I got somebody that, a very unique, dynamic person, somebody that's been influential in my career and a lot of people's careers, and just everything he touches seems to turn into gold. So we're talking to Sean Kelly. Fucking pleasure to have you on your show. Let's fucking go, man.
Let's go, man. We met a few years ago, and it's been fun getting to know you and becoming friends, man.
Yeah, we met at what was it, Nobu, right? We're speaking of eating food.
Nobu,
that's where we eat Nobu, yeah.
Nobu in Vegas. You come here a lot, man.
There's a lot. I go where the action is at, man. Proximity, right? Proximity is key.
Yeah.
So listen, what I find amazing about you is, like I said, everything you seem to touch turns to gold. I know it wasn't always like that. Your first business, I think, flopped or whatever, but you learned from that, right? So what I find amazing, that a year ago, you had zero, no one knew about your podcast, right? There were 0 viewers, whatever. Now you're one of the top 10 business podcasts in the world. You have 150 million viewers per month. I mean, how the fuck do you do it, man? How are you able to touch something and it turns to gold?
So before I enter any industry, I do a ton of research, and I'm talking with the top people in that industry. So when it comes to podcasting, I was studying the top shows, Patrick Bet-David, all the top business shows. I was texting people and just getting advice, studying who they're having on as guests, studying how they're getting views, which guests are getting the most views, what's working. I'm reading their reviews. I'm literally going all in before I enter anything. I think some people jump into stuff without doing research. So that's why when you say, I'm successful in every industry, it's because I'm taking a pretty calculated bet in my head that I'm going to be successful based off what I'm researching.
God, I read somewhere that, because I made some mistakes recently. I thought I was going to exit my company a year ago, and I started putting money in this and doing money in that. I heard you say you did some shit like that too. I heard that, let's say it's $100,000 investment, and let's say you're making, I don't know, $10,000 an hour, and that's 10 hours, right? You should spend at least 10 hours in looking into that investment to see if it's going to be worth your time. Obviously, 10,000 is a pretty extreme example, but whatever that number is what you should do. So I think I made that mistake plenty of times. I'm not making that same fucking mistake again. Have you made those similar mistakes too, where you just threw money at shit and just, fell flat on your face?
Oh, absolutely, man. And I think everyone deals with this once they make some money and start trying to diversify, right? I invested in way too many things way too quickly without doing any research during that last crypto bull run. When I was making millions of dollars, and I invested in restaurants, I invested in AI, trading softwares, lost pretty much all of it, dude. So what I realized is just invest in stuff invest in your business, invest in your personal development. If you want safe investments, do that with like bonds or whatever, or safe stocks, S&P 500. I'm at a young age now where I'm taking some big risks. So I invest in some pretty crazy shit, and I've learned from it. But now I'm at the point where I don't need to be taking as crazy of risks. I've got money, got a house, I want to have kids soon. So I'm at that weird in-between stage right now.
That's awesome. And you're only 26 years old, right?
26, turning 27 next month, dude. I hate getting old.
Bro, you know what? It's so funny you say that, because like, I've known you for a few years. I think I met you when you were 23, right? And like I said, for someone at 23 years old, you had the mind, the mentality of someone, I think that was like 40 or 50, and which is a compliment, I think, right? So I can't wait to see what the hell you're going to be doing in the future. I mean, the fact you're having this kind of success, I mean, I think sky's the fucking limit, man.
Yeah. Age is definitely on my side for now, but now there's people in high school doing. Yeah. I mean, when I was in high school, I wasn't doing shit. So I feel like it's cool to see the younger generation starting earlier.
Yeah, that's great. So we talked about you having a lot of success, right? And I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, you've been able to leverage all your previous experience, right, and compound all of that to get to where you're at now, right? I know you had Jersey Champs, right, and then you had other businesses. You had the NFT business, right? It seems like you're able to catch on to trends and make money off that. So let's talk first about how do you catch trends, man? Because trends, everyone's always trying to catch a trend. I think that's why people throw money, all sorts of shit. They think, oh, this is a new trend, that's a new trend, and then that's why they fail because they're just throwing money at shit. But how do you catch the trend without getting your ass handed to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, social media definitely helps, but generally by the time you see it on social media, you're a bit late. Yeah. So to even find out before that, usually you got to be at conferences around the right people, talking with people that have had success in multiple industries, not just one, because these guys are trend catchers, as they call them. But yeah, I've caught a few and I've lost my ass on a few, man. Yeah. So it's a numbers game, but the thing with trends is you don't want to just rely on that because that's not stable. Yeah. But every year there is a big trend, whether it was NFTs 2 years ago, the last crypto bull run, I think last year, AI this year, SaaS was a big trend, social media marketing agency like 5 years ago. So every year there is a trend, but I just wouldn't try to have that the main focus because you need stability as well.
So if you're someone listening to the show right now and they're trying to catch trends, I know there's some like, I subscribe to something called trends.ai or something like that.
I've seen that one.
Yeah.
Trend Hunter or something?
Something like that, yeah. Are there anything you recommend for them to look into or it's just as simple as just reading shit, man? Like looking at the news and what's going on. What would you say?
I would say the biggest thing, because like I said, by the time you see it online, you're probably a bit late. Yeah. So you need to get in group chats. You need to get with successful people, entrepreneurs, and talk to them like in person conferences. I know it's a bit old school, but that's where I've seen the biggest opportunities for me, at least. Yeah, and let's talk about that because you throw some incredible events, man. And what I find amazing is that you pay for all that out of your own pocket, right? Yeah. I've been to a few. I've been to one of yours in Vegas. I've been to one in New York. Mm-hmm. You know, you're having one around the Super Bowl in a few weeks. And let's talk about the people in the room. Because, I mean, the people in your room, what I like about you is that you have people in all sorts of diverse industries. Yeah. It's not just one industry. And I think that's key to catching your trend and finding what the fuck's going to pop next. So how much money have you spent out of your own pocket throwing those kind of events? Yeah, probably 6 figures. I lost money for 5 years throwing events. How much money do you think you lost over those 5 years? It's over 100. Luckily, I used Dan Fleischman's strategy, so I wasn't spending anything obnoxious. Yeah. So his strategy with events, and this is the event god, in my opinion, go have your events on an off night, right? So I never have mine on the weekends, if you've noticed, because the venue needs business on weekdays. Okay. So what I'll do is, say a bar is open on a Tuesday and they get no business. Yeah. I'll say, hey, I'll bring 150 to 500 people, whatever. How much would they need to spend in order to get this venue for free? Yeah. And they'll say an amount, 5 to 10K or whatever. And if I don't clear that, I'll just cover the rest. Yeah. But now that the events have gotten so big, the guests are spending 10K on drinks. I'm not spending anything now, which is great. And now we have sponsors and we have VIP ticket sales. So I'm finally making money. But that was never my goal, to make money off events. My goal was just connecting people and figuring out ways to make money, because that's where you'll make the most off events. And I agree. And I think you're a master, probably, out of all the people I know personally, you're probably the best networker I know. And it's funny because you didn't grow up as an outgoing person, right? I mean, at one point you said you were like very socially awkward, right? So for sure. How did you break through from being socially awkward to hosting these masterful events, having a top podcast? Like, you know, that's a fucking challenge there. How did you do it? Dude, I was so socially awkward. You wouldn't even recognize me. Really? I was a PC gamer, nerdy kid. Yeah. Wouldn't even talk to a girl. Yeah. Like, I never raised my hand in class. If a teacher called on me, I would freak out, have an anxiety attack. Yeah. Whenever my class had public presentations, I would skip the whole day. Like, I was super awkward. I even had agoraphobia, which is a whole nother level of awkwardness. And dude, getting out of it, it's all mental. Yeah. Like, I went to therapy, that shit didn't work. It's all like on you. Yeah. So forcing myself to go to events and start talking, and forcing myself to start a podcast and start speaking and going on other shows as a guest really helped me come out. Yeah. Honestly, it's really just repetition. You got to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. Yeah. You're not going to get out of it by just reading about it. Yeah. I think that the comfort zone, right? We got to get out of our comfort zones to be able to fucking get to the next level, which is key. Yeah. And speaking of that, comfort zones,
I heard somewhere you lost $10 million in shit coins, right?
Yeah.
How the fuck? I mean, that's an uncomfortable position, right?
Yeah.
How do you recover for something like that? Because obviously you're doing well now, right? And
yeah.
So let's talk about that.
It was a tough blow, but actually it was really weird making that much money that quickly.
Yeah.
And I rarely see people talk about this, but there were days where I would wake up, make 10, 50, 100K just from sleeping. And I felt like I lost purpose. And honestly, I felt pretty depressed.
Yeah.
And I know why lottery winners, a lot of them lose all their money now, because it's almost like you didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
And the universe will find a way to just make you lose that money. So when I made 10 million in a year or whatever, some quick amount of time, I felt like I didn't deserve it, honestly. Yeah. So when I lost it took like a month or two. I was upset, but it just wasn't meant to be, dude. I think everything happens for a reason, honestly.
Yeah. And that's what you said, I think was huge, because especially with men, I think a lot of men self-sabotage, right? And we feel maybe that, I don't know, imposter syndrome, or like we don't fucking deserve it, right? And it happens a lot, right? So I think that no one really talks about that. So I'm glad you brought that up, because it's something that really happens, man. And what like methods or techniques? It sounds like, I mean, you're mentally very strong, right? But did you meditate? Like, do anything particular? Because every day, every business owner is going to go through shit, right? You have your ups and downs, right? Like, so what specifically do you think helped you get through that?
Yeah, I tried meditating. Never worked for me, honestly. Okay. I just can't sit still for 5-10 minutes, dude. Like, I
can see that.
It's tough. And I've really tried. Reading never worked also. Yeah. I can't. My attention span is too short, I think, for reading books. Audiobooks I've tried. Some of them I can listen to. Podcasts is kind of my comfort zone. I like listening to podcasts. Wim Hof method. Okay. Breathing method. I do that almost every day. Yeah. You hold your breath for as long as you can, 3 times in a row. Yeah. And that pretty much cured all my anxiety, depression. Wow. And my stress is at an all-time low right now. Nice. And I'm making really good money, which is a balance. Like, normally when you make the most you've ever made, there comes with sacrifices. Absolutely. Health, relationships. But I'm at a great point now where everything feels pretty balanced in terms of health, my fiance, my business. And it took me 6 years to figure it out.
Wow. Congratulations to do that. 26 years old. I mean, that says a lot, right? So good for you. Let's talk about the flip side, though. I know with your NFT project, the Chibi Dinos, right? Yeah. I think I won a couple, too. So Chibi Dinos, you made, what, 2 million in 18 minutes?
Yeah, 2.4 at the time when ETH was 4,000.
Wow. Yeah. So let's talk about that. How did you handle that? Because we talked about losing $10 million. How you handle that? How did you handle making $2 million in 18 minutes? That's fucking insane.
I know, it's nuts. There's some specific days like that. I remember my first 100K day. Yeah. That was a crazy day. That was my first $1 million day, and it's happened twice since that day. Yeah. So it's pretty surreal. At the time, I really valued money. This was 3 years ago. Money was like the most important thing, so that felt good. But it only felt good for like 10 minutes, dude. Yeah. It was crazy. Like, it felt amazing. I was jumping around the house. And then I'm like, what's next? So it was an interesting moment. I mean, making millions, it's all about how you can invest from there. Yeah. Once you have a few million, if you play your cards right, you're pretty much set for life.
Got it. So let's give some advice to the audience, because obviously to attain net worth over millions or tens of millions, whatever number it may be, it takes time to get there, right? If someone's starting out new, or they just got started like a side hustle, what's your best recommendation for them to kind of collapse timeframes and get there as quickly as possible?
Yeah, so at first, when you're broke and you don't have any connections, you're going to want to learn, because you don't have high income skills yet. So you're going to want to have a mentor. Yeah. That's going to expedite your process by years. Yeah. That's something I wish I had earlier, because at first I was grinding my ass off for 3 years straight, making $50K a year with Jersey Champs. But if I had a mentor along that process, I would have done all that in 3 months. Yeah. So that would be the number one step. Figure out how to get a mentorship, and it'll probably be free, honestly, since you don't have skills. You might have to not even get paid for 6 months to a year. But I'd say the stuff you learn from that mentor in whatever field you're trying to get into will pay itself 10x.
Yeah, huge. You're right about that. My mentors, they help accelerate time frame, right? We don't have as much time. That's a resource you can't get back. You can make money right away, no problem. But mentors will help you accelerate those time frames. So I think that's huge. And then going back to your networking events, they're littered with people that are successful, right? That are really willing to mentor you if they like you, or you bring value to them. Yeah. So let's talk about adding value and how important that is in networking, because we talked about that before. Master networker, and I think with you bring a lot of value for people, right? And I think that's what's opened up doors for you. So can you give us like an example? Like, what do you think was the biggest when you first started out, or you're making that jump? What was like a key relationship, or that you were able to bring value to open the door to help you get to where you were at?
Yeah. So it's all relative to where you're at in your life. So when I was first starting going to masterminds at, I think I was 21, Dan Glacian's mastermind, my value wasn't what it is today. Now I can make make relationships and help people make money, which is very valuable. That's like one of the most valuable skills you can learn. But back then, I didn't have those connections. So my value was helping people get featured on press articles. I had connections with writers and stuff. I used to have a lot of articles written about me. So I took those writers, showed them cool businesses to write about. And people like that, you know, entrepreneurs like to flex. And when you Google their name, they like to pop up. So that was my value at first. But then as I started building my Rolodex, I noticed, wow, I'm connecting people together now and they're making money. This is super valuable. And that's what I do now pretty much. And I've connected people. They made millions together, some of them. So if you could develop that skill, that's when you get to that next level. Yeah,
for sure. And speaking of that mastermind, right? Was that the $1 million mastermind?
Yeah, 100 million.
You spent $100,000 to be part of it, right?
Crazy.
And that was like half your net worth at the time, right?
Dude, literally half of my liquid net worth, which people say net worth.
Yeah.
For me, it only matters liquid because you could
liquidity.
Yeah, you could be worth 100 million on paper.
Yeah.
But how much money do you have in your bank?
Cash is king.
Yeah. So I don't really care when because people say crazy obnoxious net worths.
Yeah.
And they're usually not accurate.
Yeah. I see it. And I was going to say something about that because for you to take half of your liquidity to put it into a networking event, were you nervous? Like, were you like, am I fucking crazy? Like, what thoughts went through your mind?
Pretty nervous. When I got there, even more nervous because we had to do an introduction in front of everybody.
With all these heavy hitters, right?
The first night. So I'm like, dude, what am I going to say? There's like people worth $1 billion in this room.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, I was 21 at the time and I was doing Jersey Champs. That was my main focus. But people saw that drive in me. Older people like being surrounded by young energy, young positive energy. So a couple of those guys really took me on, even though I was doing nowhere close to their numbers.
And you're doing business with some of the guys to this day, right?
Yeah, I literally got lunch with Matt Morgan last week. That dude's worth 9 figures. He's making 200K a week right now. Some crazy stuff he's doing. And he was sort of the first mentor that took me on from that mastermind.
Yeah. So that's key right there because I think anyone that's successful, you can't get anywhere in life without somebody's help. You can't take everything on yourself. If you want to be big, you got to build a team. You have to have people help you get there, right? So I think that's one thing that you mastered. And that was probably, I talk about LFG, let's fucking go moments. That was probably one of those moments that was like an epiphany for you, right? Where you're like, wow, I spent $100,000 and then you start to see some results and then you start doing more of that, right? Then you start hosting your own events, right? So that's what I'm talking about. You leverage those past experiences to help you get to where you're at now.
Exactly. And people want instant results, right? Yeah. So I spent that 100 G's. I didn't see it back for maybe a year or two.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah.
But the problem is people buy a course or whatever, a mastermind, they want results the next week.
Yeah.
But when it comes to relationships, you have to foster those. Those are, some of them last your whole lifetime. You can't just make money off the first week you meet someone.
I got a good story. So my business partner, Ed, met him in 2017, August 2017. We didn't make money for like a year and a half, right? Nothing. And then all of a sudden we started making a lot of money, blah, blah, this leads to that. Then 2 years later, we merged our companies, do tens of millions of dollars a year in revenue, right? But same exact, we kept in touch, cool guy. And I think that people got to get patient. They have to learn patience. You spend some time, things take time to build, right? So that's a great fucking story. And I think the other key component is proximity. You gain proximity to these heavy hitters, people that are doing 9 figures a year, right? You wouldn't have had that proximity if you didn't spend that $100,000 to get there, right?
They would have never talked to me. And dude, it's crazy. I was thinking about this the other day. I'm 1 degray away from anyone in the country right now.
Amazing. Yeah.
Like if I wanted to get Trump on, I'm 1 degree away from him. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that is
that's
crazy.
All proximity.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to Jersey Champs. It goes back to the 100K you spend. It goes back to moving to Las Vegas, right?
Yep.
How did Las Vegas move you? Because you were from Jersey like I am, right? How did moving from Jersey to Las Vegas affect your trajectory?
Oh my God, night and day, dude. So Jersey's a great state for families, but not for entrepreneurship. And
high taxes.
Even in New York, like it's an older demo. Podcasts aren't as big out there. So I'd say Vegas, LA, Miami are my top 3.
Yeah.
Because I film in those cities mainly. But Vegas, dude, everyone comes to Vegas at least once a year.
Yeah.
Conference. We got the Super Bowl this year. There's concerts here, festivals. I mean, it's just popping here all the time.
What prompted you to move from New Jersey to Vegas?
So it was actually Jersey to LA at first.
Oh, okay.
So I was chasing the clout. That's what I thought I wanted at the time was social media clout. And I quickly learned LA was not for me. So I lasted 5 months there. Then I drove to Vegas and fell in love with Vegas, honestly.
Got it.
So it wasn't planned.
Yeah, cool. That reminds me of me. I went from Jersey to Miami. At first, like, what the fuck? But the networking in Miami is like next level, man.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like it's easier to penetrate those social circles, right? So, man, that's freaking amazing shit that you're talking about here. So next, let's talk about I know you do a lot of these events, right? A lot of it's whining and dining, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about something that's fun for you. You're a foodie. What are your top 3 restaurants that you've been to?
Oh man, there's some good ass restaurants depending on the cuisine, but I really like Wing Lei inside the Win.
Yeah.
That's a good one. The steakhouse inside of Circa, I think it's called Barry's.
Okay.
That is fire. And then I just went to Water Grill in Caesar's Form Shops. I got to say, that one was amazing. All their fish is flown in within 2 days.
Yeah.
And I got some Dungeness crab. They cooked it live. They have a bunch of live tanks.
Yeah.
So that was good. I mean, you're spoiled in Miami with seafood, but in Vegas, it's a little tougher to get.
And let's talk about the importance of taking people out, like clients or people you want to do business to a good dinner. I was with my partner right now, and everything's relative, right? I'm going to talk some numbers, and some people are like, that's a lot of fucking money. Some people might say, I do that in one night. But he said last year we spent $500,000 on fucking eating out and traveling to these conferences. I was surprised, I was like, damn, I didn't think it was that high, but whatever, it is what it is. But that $500,000 yields a ROI, right?
Absolutely.
So let's talk about that, because I think it comes down to the mentality of you got to spend money or invest money wisely to make further money, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, traveling and dining, one of the best ROIs you could do, honestly. So whenever I travel somewhere, like I'm going to LA in a few days, I organize a dinner and I pay for it. And I invite, 4 to 10 ballers, however many people. And we just network and have fun, dude. And you talk business, obviously, but you don't know where that will lead. You're fostering that relationship. Maybe you text them a year later and you end up doing something. Yeah. Connecting the dots on something. But yeah, traveling, dude, and you get to travel the world. I mean, that's one of my favorite things to spend money on. You go to Colombia, you go to all these fun spots. I mean, having money and the freedom to do that is just super cool. Yeah,
and I think that's the key, right? I was going to ask you, what drives you, and I think what drives an entrepreneur really, is that having that freedom to do what they want when they want to do it, right? Mm-hmm. And with that being said, I mean, you've never had a job, right? You've always worked for yourself. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I worked for my dad, but that wasn't really like set hours. Yeah. But yeah, I never had a real job. I remember, do you know what Wegmans is?
Yeah, New Jersey, the supermarket in Jersey, yeah.
So my mom was forced, like begging me to get a job. It got to the point where she called Wegmans and forced the phone in my ear. I'm like begging her to stop. I even told her to F off. Yeah. My own
How old were you? 17,
I was
18?
Dumb high schooler. Yeah, like 15 or something. Yeah. And I was like, damn, I just told my mom to F off. That's crazy. And the girl on the phone heard it.
Oh, he's done. Fuck this guy.
So they didn't even. She interviewed me for like 2 minutes, but I got a letter in the mail like the next day. Like you're not approved here.
That reminds me, my aunt is from Venezuela, right? She was the first one in her college to go, in her family to go to college. She always wanted me to have a corporate job, right? And I had some corporate jobs when I was younger, but she was like, "Oh, why don't be an entrepreneur, this and that." But like she was just, she grew up in that environment and she was successful, she's doing it that way. But we all have our paths to follow, right? You knew that wasn't your path, and imagine you did take that job. It probably would have slowed down your progress, right? I would imagine.
I mean, everything happens for a reason. Who knows? But I'd say this with people looking to get a corporate job. If it makes you happy, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
And do it. But if not, really evaluate things.
So there's a role for it. Like you can get a lot of training. They pay you. You're learning. You're getting trained by them and you're getting paid something, So do the best you can do. Don't fucking bitch and complain. A lot of people do that. And then they get then they got to start from the bottom. You got to make some money, survive, but then use those skills to make sort of side hustle. Yeah, and then do something from there, right?
Yeah, I actually just made that switch in my life in regards to complaining. So I try not to complain at all. Yeah, even if really messed up things happen, that mindset is just super toxic, and it can transfer from person to person.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I think mindset is so important in business and life. Everything's for everything. So. How do you obviously are around a lot of successful people, right? Yeah. What are like some mindset commonalities you see in their mindset as opposed to like the regular person?
Yeah. So regular people have victim mentalities. Yeah. So when something bad happens to them, they just make excuses rather than owning up to it. And I used to have that mindset. Yeah. I used to be super pessimistic. My dad was probably the most pessimistic person you've ever met.
Interesting.
But he had a really traumatic childhood that he never recovered from. Yeah. So I understood it. And he never wanted to fix it. He actually never talked to his parents after he left at 18.
Wow.
So he was just super negative. And my mom was also super negative.
Wow.
So I grew up in a very negative household. And it got to the point where I thought that was normal to think that way. Yeah. So once I moved out, got around entrepreneurs, I was like, these people are so positive. Yeah. This is crazy. So it took years, honestly, to switch it. And I'm still not fully positive. I still have negative moments, but that's part of being human, I think. But just that mindset shift of victim mentality is a big one.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. It's true. I grew up, I didn't know what wealth was. At one point, my family, we're at food stamps. My mom, not deliberately, my mom lost a job to her a couple of weeks ago. I want to remember, there's like funny money, these food stamps. We'd be in New Jersey with those things. But, I thought at first rich people were bad. Like, what the fuck? I never knew what rich people. But then you get around some rich people, successful people, like, well, these people are great.
Yeah.
They're the most fucking altruistic people, willing to give you a shot. And if they see you could help them, they're willing to help you, right? So I think that's the biggest shift, is that a lot of people, they keep this victim mentality, and that's what holds them back in life, So powerful words. I didn't expect and we went to a a shit here. I didn't expect you to get into that.
No, that reminds me of just growing up in Jersey. I thought Republicans were bad because I watched the news.
Oh, yeah, me too, man. It's funny,
So I thought they were the worst.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't even talk to a Republican until I was probably out of college, honestly.
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
Bro, it's funny, man. Yeah, I knocked on doors in Dover, New Jersey one time, man. And I noticed, like, everyone that had an American flag was Republican. I was, like, nervous to talk to them. I was like, oh, this guy wasn't that bad,
Yeah.
But it's funny you say that, man. But yeah, it's all about that mentality shift, right? And having an open mind and not being too married to one idea, having that flexibility, fluidity, right?
Exactly. So now I'm super selective of what I listen to, man, because your subconscious could be impacted so easily. And if you watch the news every day, that shit drains you, dude.
It does. Yeah.
I feel so bad after watching the news, and I watched it every day in high school and middle school. And I would go to school like feeling weird. Yeah. And I never knew it was related to the news.
Oh, you're absolutely right about that. Wow, good shit, man. So another thing I want to talk about is you obviously had a lot of companies, right? Mm-hmm. You've exited a few of them, right? How many exits do you have under your belt?
There was one big one, which was a marketing agency, and then I sold a Instagram one called Environment, a smaller one.
Got it. So what's some advice you can give to people? Like if you want to exit a company or I think you have to absolutely, when you start a business, always think about an exit, right?
Yeah.
If you don't, you're falling behind. But what are some tips you can give someone that might be going through that process or, is thinking about that process?
Yeah. I mean, mine wasn't a huge exit. Like it was 7 figures, but I did learn like having really good books obviously helps. Have an accountant or just have really clean books. Because if you have one fuck up, they'll notice.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's like a big thing. Just make sure you're organized, and profit's what I think most people care about when it comes to buying companies. So I think you'll get a multiple based off whatever industry you're in. Our profit was really good on the marketing agency. Yeah. So that was able to get acquired. And you need to remove yourself from the business, which was the toughest part for me.
Absolutely.
Because I was a solopreneur for most of my career without employees. And I always wanted to be hands-on. But it took a lot to start outsourcing.
Yeah. That's huge. Yeah. You can't do it all yourself.
Yeah.
Right? So absolutely. And exiting is not easy. I think less than 1% or half of 1% of people exit their companies.
It's pretty small, man.
Yeah.
It's pretty small.
And I was close to it. I was almost there. And then the valuation went down. We decided not to sell. So I learned a lot about it. But I think it prepares us for the next time we have that opportunity.
Yeah. And here's a crazy thing with exits, which I learned also. A lot of companies will offer stock.
Yes.
You got to be careful with that because you don't know if stock will tank and then they give you like 5 years before you can sell it or something crazy. And, what's his name? Alex Becker, like, that happened to him, Yeah. That company, I don't know if they went public or whatever, but that deal fell through. And a ton of people, I know people in the solar industry that sold and, they didn't get what they thought.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like, it's a whole, hate to say it, it's almost like a scam, man.
When they offer stock, it's a red flag for me.
And what someone told me that sold his company for $70 million, he's like, Dave, they're going to give you some upfront money. That's probably all you're going to see.
Yep.
Right? Don't count on that back end shit after the earn out or this or that or stock. Just if you're cool with the upfront money, then you should be cool with the deal because you're probably never going to see all the rest of that shit.
That happened to me, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's surprising.
You see the dollar sign tied to the stock and you're like, oh, I'm getting that.
Yeah.
But then you don't factor in, first of all, tax when you sell the stock.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Second of all, the stock might not ever happen or it might tank, which most stocks do.
Yeah.
So learning lesson.
Yeah. Cool. Well, a lot of good lessons here. And I'm going to ask you the most important question here. You're a Jersey guy. I'm a Jersey guy.
Yeah.
You miss Jersey pizza?
I do. There's this new spot in the Durango called Prince Street Pizza, and that's probably the best I've had out here. But dude, it's slim pickings out in Vegas for pizza.
When are you back in Jersey?
I'm gonna try to come out in April because Gary Vee invited me out to the office.
That's another Jersey guy.
Yeah. I think people respect it, dude. Like when Damon John just spoke at my event, he asked where I'm from, and when I said Jersey, he followed me on Instagram right away. So
I love when people from Jersey were fucking killing it, man. It's good. Listen, next time you're in Jersey, I'm there. I got a new pizza spot called Nola's in Garwood.
Okay.
It's gonna blow your fucking socks off, man.
Ooh.
We gotta go there, man.
I'm down.
You shoot some content out of there.
I'm down. What type of pizza is it?
Oh my God. I had this square vodka pie called Nona. It might be it's definitely one of the top 3 pies I ever had. It was definitely the best pie I had last year.
Damn.
So every time I'm in that area, I'm going there. When you're there.
Which town is it?
It's Garwood, New Jersey. So it's not far from where you grew up in New Brunswick. Probably 20 minutes from New Brunswick. Okay. Yeah, near Westfield.
Oh, I've been to Westfield.
Yeah. Good shit.
Sick.
We're going to make that shit happen, man.
Let's do it, dude.
Well, listen, Sean, great having you on the show. Guys, Follow Sean. The guy's fucking killing it. Word great. I every time I'm with him, I feel like I learn, I grow, you know, and I'm like 70 years older than you. Maybe I don't know how fucking much older I am. But listen to him. The guy knows what the fuck he's doing. How can people find out more about you?
Yeah, Digital Social Hour Podcast, Sean Mike Kelly on Instagram. Thanks for having me, man.
Beautiful. Let's fucking go, guys.
Let's go.